Good morning and welcome to Leadership 101. I am honored today to welcome my guest, Walker Jenkins, to the program. I met Walker this summer, past summer, last year, before he started his senior year in high school, as he was about to embark on a fundraiser for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And the Make-A-Wish folks reached out to me, and Walker wanted to sit down and meet a Make-A-Wish kid. My 32-year-old got a Make-A-Wish trip when she was going through some significant health challenges. So I got to meet Walker and his mom and dad. And I must admit, I had no idea when I sat down with Walker what he was involved with. I knew he was a baseball player, I knew he was an athlete, but I had no idea what his future looked like and what his plans were until we sat down and talked. Walker, one of the best days of my life, man, was the day I met you. I just want you to know that.
Well, man, I appreciate that. It was being with you and your family and Mallory was one of the most humbling and just eye-opening experiences for me. Because sometimes, like I said, I can get caught up in the moment and I feel like be pretty selfish. Like, gosh, why I stink this baseball game? Or man, I really have a day not going my way. And then I really have to come back down to earth. And I think back to you and your family and how much y'all have had to go through and just how you are still some of the best people I know today, even with all the hardships and everything. I'm sure you wouldn't change a thing because your family is the way it is because of everything. I mean, y'all are great. So I can't thank y'all enough for giving me that opportunity.
Well, what was it? I'm just curious as we move forward. For folks that don't know, Walker just was selected. He just graduated from South Brunswick High School, and he was picked up in the first round of the Major League Baseball draft as the overall number 5 pick. And he's going to be playing ball with the Minnesota Twins, most likely. Congratulations for that.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I was so disappointed. I came to one of your games and they walked you every time you came to the plate. You never even got to even get there. They just pointed down to first base. And then you proceeded to steal second, steal third, almost and then scores. So you never swung the bat. I think you swung the bat once that game and you got a base hit. But at the end of the day, you scored, I believe, 3 runs that night, and it was during the tournament. So
Yes.
when I met Walker, I had no idea about his future. He was going to go play in an all-star game, and he was raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation and did a great job with that. But over the course of the meeting, as he learned about my daughter Mallory, Walker was rubbing his hand a lot. And I finally said, what's going on with your hand? And do you remember what you told me?
Yeah, sir. I had just broken my hamate bone and trying to come back from that, trying to get ready to go. And I also said, kind of going back to that selfish type of Walker, I was like, man, I had been really upset about this hand. I'm like, why is this happening? Lord, why me? And then sitting down with y'all and talking and just seeing everything you had to go through, I'm just like, this is so insignificant. Like I'll be good to go in a couple weeks, and I'm over here worried about my silly little hand. And so I just remember thinking that, and then when I sat down with y'all, and right after the hamate surgery, and I'm like, once again, I need to say my prayers at night and thank the Lord for everything that I have and where I'm at.
You are so well grounded. I saw an interview you did recently, and the interviewer asked you why you stay around and sign autographs for little kids after a game until everybody gets an autograph. And what you said, I wish every young person in the world could hear that interview, because you talked about you were once that kid. You
Mm-hmm.
were standing at the fence admiring whoever you were watching play ball. Do you see yourself as you go forward with the major leagues? Are you still going to stand at that fence and sign autographs?
I'm going to try as much as I can, sir. Obviously, if there's thousands of people there, I won't be able to get everybody, but I'm going to try to make everyone feel as special as possible and to get a bang for their buck for coming to a baseball game to watch me. Seriously, I meant it when I said I was that little kid. It didn't matter if it was a high school, college, or professional ball player. I was just excited to be there and hopefully could talk to him, get a fist bump, get a ball signed, whatever it may be. And that's something that if it happened, I carried with me to this day. I got a ball from Andrew McCutcheon at a spring training game that he threw in from like running in from the outfield. Like I was 7 years old, and I still remember that. And I didn't speak to him. Like it's things like that those little kids don't forget and can hopefully lead them down a path, their future.
So Walker, you signed all these autographs. You even people would mail you things to sign, and you were saying in the interview that you would sign everything you got and mail it back. And I think the main theme of that speaks to the heart of your character and who you are. And what I want to really talk about now, you've turned 18 years old, right?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
you're 18 years old, and you're probably one of the most well-grounded 18-year-olds I've met in a long time. But I want people to understand how hard you worked to get the opportunity to be drafted in the top 5. Can you tell everybody, first of all, your grade point average coming out of school is what, a 4.5?
Yes, sir.
4.5 GPA. Tell everybody what your daily schedule looked like when you were playing ball in high school.
Yes, sir. So, I can't say enough how extremely blessed I was to have parents like I do, a support group like I do, this community. I mean, everyone supported me. But it did take a lot of hard work. It was a lot of hard work over a lot of years. In high school, and there's a lot of mornings I'm waking up, 4:45. I've had a meal plan. I'm prepped for meals on Sunday night a lot of times, and I'll have boiled eggs and excuse me, bacon and like an apple. I'll eat 3 boiled eggs, some pieces of bacon and apple. Then I'll go to my workout that was anywhere from 6 to 7.
Now that's in Wilmington, which is
Yes,
an
sir.
hour drive, right?
And so I'll go to my workout, knock that out for about an hour to an hour and a half. I'll come back to class. I'll go to my 2 periods at the school. Then a lot of the time I would get done with school and I would go hit. And then I'd get done with hitting. And a lot of times I do a little bit of running, work on some sprint work. And then I go back to baseball practice and practice for 2 hours or so. Then I get done with that. I eat dinner, hang out with my family, and might hit a little bit more and knock out some of the schoolwork that I have. But going back to the point with the academics, that was always the number one priority in my family. I think a lot of people don't want to do it, and I didn't want to do it. I had a lot of interactions with my parents over that stuff.
So your
But
mom and dad held you accountable.
extremely. I mean, they taught to me at a young age how important academics were, and seriously, it was the first priority. I was such a stubborn kid that spankings didn't work on me. Taking toys away didn't work that well on me. So they figured out how much I loved baseball, and were like, okay, you're going to do your schoolwork before you can go practice baseball or any other sport for that fact. And so I learned to put academics first, and I think has carried me and allowed me to do well and put myself in a good situation up to this point. Because when you love something, like I love baseball, you're going to make time for it. You know what I'm saying? You're going to find time to do what you love.
So I think, that's another key facet of your character was not only was your training schedule rigorous, and you've been doing this for a long time. You didn't just start this a year ago. How long have you been training? I mean, you started at what, 8 years old or whatever, you didn't make a team and you decided I'm going to change everything.
I have started physically working out like in the weight room and doing all that sort of thing when high school started. Now, hitting wise and baseball wise, I've done that stuff since I was seriously about 8 years old, where I would hit every single day, take ground balls, fly balls, for hours. And that's something that, I just always loved it and wanted to be the best. And I've always worked at it.
I believe I heard your sister say that sometimes, you'd wake up the whole family in the morning because you'd be down in the basement, I guess, in a batting cage and working on your swing.
So when I was younger, like obviously my dad would go and hit with me and throw to me and do things like that. He'd tell me, I don't know how soon I'm gonna get home tonight. I may not get home from work in time, for you, you're gonna need to go to bed, is what he's saying before I get home. And I'm like, daggone it. So we hung a golf net from one of our garage doors in the garage. And so I'd wake up before school and go down there and hit with him and make sure I got my hitting in. So I could, just do it because I loved it and I wanted to get it in and get better.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I really think is important for young people that are going to hopefully watch this interview to realize that nothing comes easy. If you want it, you've got to set a goal and then you've got to be willing to work for it and you've got to put in the work. It doesn't always work out, but you've got to try, right?
Yes, sir.
What other things interest you besides baseball? I know you were swimming a lot to work on muscles that weren't impacted otherwise.
That was fun. Now I can't say that one interests me too much. It was good in the off season and good for my body. I'd suggest it for anyone that's a hard contact athlete or is someone that's going at it all the time. Swimming is just good to pull all the muscles apart, relax everything, working on mobility and flexibility. But then, I'm still a normal kid. I love to go hunting and fishing, hanging out with my buddies, going out to the beach. Excuse me. Hanging out in the boat, all that stuff. I love being with my friends and girlfriend and hanging out and just having fun. So
I love that you had your baseball team and your grandparents and everybody over at your house
Yes,
for the
sir.
draft. That was noticed that in the pictures and on television when they called your name. How did it? You were anticipating? I think they had you slotted to go in the top 5, top 8 anyway.
Yes,
Were
sir.
you, as the draft is going on, were you getting nervous at all, or did you feel pretty confident your name was about to be called?
I was pretty laid back, to be totally honest, going through this whole process, a lot more laid back than even myself thought I would be. When the draft started, I got kind of like, all right, let's go. I want to figure out what's going to happen. And you have a somewhat of an idea where you're going to go, but it's still unknown.
Until
So
they call your name, right? You're
so
yeah.
you have a like kind of advisor that works for you, and he texted me like 30 seconds before the Twins are going to take you. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, no way. And I'm like, just waiting so it'll pop up on the TV so my whole family can see. And I didn't tell him yet, but I'm as competitive as I am. Going 5th overall was amazing, but the euphoric feeling only lasts for about that night for me. The next day I'm going back to work and I want to beat out those other 4 guys that got drafted in front of me and the dudes from every other draft, so there's a lot of work to be done and a lot to still not prove, but to go out there and show people that I can do so I can, be the best.
It has to blow your mind that all over Oak Island, there were gatherings of people that have been following you through high school and
Yes, sir.
frankly, friends of the family. You're very active in your church. You walk the walk, talk the talk of your faith, and you've got such a great family behind you with your mom, dad, and sister. How humbling was it for you to know all these people care so much about me? They're circling up at various churches and organizations to watch the draft.
I've said it numerous times. I would not be where I am without my family, the support group behind me in this community. I mean, just growing up in this area has been amazing. Not only from the aspect of the support I get from everybody, but the competitive aspect as well. Just all the other good ball players, the good families, just being in this area has just been great for me. So I genuinely, without my family in this community, I don't think I'd be where I am.
Well, I talked to you a number of times as we were approaching the draft, and I don't mind saying out loud, College Hunks National Organization was talking to your advisor about signing you to an NIL agreement if you were to go to North Carolina. And I'm kind of glad we missed out on that, brother, because I'm looking forward to seeing you play in the show quickly. But I think one of the things I ask you that people have asked me since the draft the other night is, why go now versus go to college? And I think you had a very good answer around that as to why now versus then and why is that important?
It's just the situation So, my overall goal is I want to be the best Major League Baseball player, at some point in my life. I want to go out and I want to be the best out of everybody ever to come along. I'm going to do everything I can, play my heart out, try to be the best teammate, best player to the fans, everything I can. And that's my goal. My goal is not to be the best high school ball player ever, the best college ball player ever. Obviously, I want to be the best, but I'm working towards that ultimate goal. I have stepping stone goals to get there. Um, if someone came to me with a crystal ball right now and said, college would be the fastest route for you to get to the big leagues and achieve that goal, then that's the route I would take.
Yeah.
But being in the situation that I am, and getting drafted that high, it's a situation where I'm going to bet on myself and bet on myself in the minor leagues to go out and perform, to accept failures, to learn how to handle those and to go on and make it to the show and hopefully play for a really long time and turn into the best.
I mean, you also shared with me that the process doesn't change. Whether they draft you out of college or high school, you're still going
Yes,
to
sir.
follow the same
A lot
procedure.
of times. Sometimes they'll move you a little bit quicker coming out of college because you've seen better arms, been around better competition. Um, but at the same time, I've seen the best arms in the country for my age, and they're guys that are throwing 100 miles per hour. So it's like you give me, I get to go and hit that every day. I'm gonna get good at it. So it's a situation where I think I'd be fine either direction, but being in this scenario, it's hard to turn down.
Well, Walker, I want to pivot for a second. One of the things that you and I talked about the first time I met you, I could tell that, I know your mom and dad did a great job on you, but God did too.
Yes, sir.
So we talked about how I think I told you that one of the pieces of advice I'd given my son early on was don't do something in the first 20 years of your life that can ruin the next 60. Like you, he was a very well-grounded, good decision maker. I mean, we had adult friends trying to take him to a bar, to underage drink. And he was the one to say, I can't do that. I can
Yes,
ruin my career. He's now, in the Army and an Apache pilot and done very well serving our country. How are you going to keep yourself on the road less traveled as all of these influencers, and I mean negative influencers, are going to come after you? How are you going to keep yourself grounded in your faith and your leadership? I can't imagine how many different things are going to come at you as you start heading forward in your career.
Well, I just think, I'm gonna stick to my morals. I'm gonna stick to what I believe. And I believe in the Lord and I believe in his word. And so I try to surround myself with people that believe that also are gonna hold me accountable and keep me walking down the right path. Because I'm human. I'm not perfect. I'm gonna make mistakes and I'm gonna mess up. But having people there for me to keep me accountable and straighten me back out, I think is going to be key. So I definitely, that support group of my family and friends and other believers, I think is going to be key to, especially going somewhere where there is so much negative in the world, of keeping me down the right path. Um, and just, a lot of it, I don't believe in a lot of the things some of these people do. I've never smoked, never done that stuff. And, I don't plan on it. I'm not gonna be that guy. And,
You would
I just,
agree it's harder to stay on that road less travel.
it can be, yes, sir. Especially when you're around, right now, growing up where I grow up, there's not many people that are, trying to force me to do something else or tempt me into doing something else. But, when you get to the level where people know who you are, I feel like, and they're like, all right, this guy is famous. Let's see if we can get him to come out with us or do something along those lines. I think it's people want to try to tempt me. But I'm going to try to do the opposite. If I find people like that, I'm going to stand strong in my faith and my morals and ethics and try to bring them to the Lord and, kind of hit them with the reverse card. But,
You can
I
do
think
that. You can
that's,
do that. I totally believe you've got it in you. And I know you've got the background and the 18 years of life experience you have may be kind of short, but you had a phenomenal family that brought you along this path to get you to where you are. And I can tell, I was at a restaurant last night on Oak Island, and the waitress was phenomenal. She had the best attitude and the best smile and provided the best service. And I handed her a nice tip. And I told her, I said, don't you believe for 1 second that your smile and your attitude goes unnoticed by others. And I would say the same to you.
Yes,
Don't you
sir.
think for 1 second, because I know the things that you do and the things you have done are not for show, because I know your heart.
Yes, sir.
So that's the thing that I believe has made you so special to so many people in the Brunswick County area, Oak Island, Southport, is these folks know your heart, and it's, you can't fake it. You are what you are. And I believe you're right. I mean, the Bible says to let your light so shine before men, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
I believe your light is shining, and I believe it's going to shine in the major leagues, and you're going to continue to influence people in a positive way. But I tell you what, you've got my cell number. Anytime you need to talk, you
Yes,
know who
sir.
you can call, right?
Yes, sir.
So what are your parting thoughts, Walker, as we wrap this up? Any additional thoughts that come to mind that you want to share with folks that might watch this video?
It's just, I feel like there are so many people that look at me, and especially younger kids that look up to me and want to be where I am, want to be better than me, want to do better than me, set your goals higher than mine. I mean, a lot of people, I feel like, get complacent. They're like, I want to be the best, but you don't work like the best. To be one of the best, you have to work hard. I feel like you need to treat others the way you want to be treated. If you get to this point, I think one thing I've tried to really hard to do is stay level headed and always respect others, and going back to like signing balls, talking to others, making time to just treat others the way I would want to be treated. So I think that's some of the most important information I can just tell people.
It is. And I agree with you. And I would tell people viewing this video that I spoke to you weeks ago, and I was at the game talking to your mom and dad. And I told your mom that, now, I'm from Plains, Georgia, and I know former President Jimmy Carter.
Yes,
And
sir.
I said, I got to tell you, this is the closest I've been to something like this ever. And your mom looked at me and kind of chuckled, and she said, me too. And I'm like, well, I guess that's true. But at the end of the day, I said, how is Walker doing? And she said, Walker is keeping his wits about him, and he'll tell you. And you said it to me a little later that right now I've got a deal to go to North Carolina until the next thing happens.
Yes,
That's where
sir.
my focus is. So you brought up, well-grounded, focused. I mean, there's so many adjectives. I hope a lot of young people, I hope a lot of parents see this video, and I hope they share it with their children to see you tell your story and to learn from you, and to realize even with folks in a working career, nothing worth having comes easy. And if you want it, you got to put in the work. And you started working on this since you were a little boy,
Yes,
and you
sir.
actually are one of the few that's going to see it come to fruition. So
And I'm not saying, I don't think, everyone doesn't need to start working on it at 6 or 7, but people are going to take different paths. There are so many of my buddies that I know that didn't start playing ball, or, didn't start working hard at this or that and that, and have been extremely successful because they did start working hard. You just have to start at some point. You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah,
not about when you start, but just starting.
well, on behalf of the Moss family, we're real proud of you.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
sir.
I know Mallory's thrilled to
Yes,
see
sir.
you go this way. And I want to back up, and when you were rubbing your hand and I said, what's going on? And you described it, and you said, I got a problem with my hand, but I've got a bigger one with my head. And I said, what world? Because at that point, everything that you had discussed was so level headed and so spot on. And you said, I've been fretting about my hand and worried about my hand for months. And Mallory had to have brain surgery so she could live. And
Mhm.
man, what an impactful thing to come from, at that point, a 17-year-old young man, to be thinking that way. So I'm thankful your hand has healed. And I'm
Thank
thankful that you got this opportunity. And Walker, if we can ever do anything for you, we're here for you. And congratulations. Best wishes, brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care and let's go Twins.
Yes, sir. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, so stop the